Welcome back to Games Revealed. I'm James and also Brink, and we are one. Today, I want to talk about the news about the Steam Deck booklet that Valve dropped recently. It comes because they want to introduce, I think, their company, the deck, and more into that area, as it's a little bit newer. They don't have as big of a presence in some areas like Japan as they do in maybe China. And so they want to make sure, in my opinion, people just understand who they are, and maybe they will actually get a grip on the market and grow in the Asian region. So with that, we're going to be going over, skimming through some of this today. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to read a couple of the points, and then we're going to get to the juicy end, which is all about kind of the future. It's not a lot, but it shows a lot of promise. So before we get into it, make sure to like, subscribe, bash that bell with your crowbar. Now we can go on a field trip. So, I mean, it's a nice looking booklet. This looks like it'd be more from Google, but I mean, it's not to critique anything, I guess. So, we're starting out right here. They essentially talk about the history of Valve and like who they were, how Steam came to be, and how they now cover 200 regions, 30,000 titles, and just I mean, I was there from the beginning, and they have been one of the best clients for gaming on the PC since day one, in my opinion. Playing in Counter-Strike, Source, Beta was my jam back in the day. And I really this is one of the reasons I stick with Steam. This is why I do so much Steam Deck, Steam material, and PC gaming stuff, because Steam means a lot to me. And so just going through the history really brought a little bit back for me, just because I really loved Steam back in the day, and I still love it today, and I still love that I can play the games that I bought back in the day. Guess what? I can go in and start up Counter-Strike Source and play it to this day. I cannot do that with my Wii U because I do not have a Wii U right now. I used to, but I cannot do that with my Wii U games. I can't just pull them easily. So Valve's history of making things is largely based on ideas that come from outside itself and the community members who invented something new. I agree with this. They're trying to sell, this is more of a marketing / sales booklet, which makes sense. I kind of mentioned they're trying to break into this region more. They really want the gamers in these regions to understand where they're coming from and maybe where they're going, and that, hey, pick us if you want a good time. So they talk about some of the old games they're based off of, where they like Counter-Strike, Day of Defeat, Team Fortress, some of these games where they acquired these mods, essentially these groups, and brought them into their ecosystem and built off of it. Like, they have been a huge part of the community. And I will say, at times, maybe they haven't been the best with their community. They're the best game company, game platform, developers, in my opinion, when it comes to listening to the community and building off of it. And that's one of the things I love about Steam, and I think that's why a lot of people love Steam, is that at least they care somewhat. Now, with this is the thing that I've had a few arguments with people about how Valve doesn't want it to be an open system or anything like that. This is where it's kind of proof that they do. Our hardware is designed to enable you to do things we haven't thought of yet. And then over here, Steam Deck is a game console that can also make games, hardware meant to be hacked, an open OS with capabilities that will expand by the community. When you're done playing games, what will you make with your Steam Deck? And it's just really comes down to, hey, plugins would be awesome. There is some plugins. I'm going to do a plugin video later down the road, just in a little bit. And it just really goes to the show that, hey, they want the community to extend while they're extending. They want this to be open. They want this to be an intriguing platform, and they want community because they understand that community is almost where they started. Half-Life is amazing. Don't get me wrong. It was their first game, and I think they would have been great. I just don't think they would have been what they are today without bringing in that outside help, those people that started on the outside into their fold. And I hope that I hope to see that with their hardware division too. I really hope that Valve will continue to integrate people that are creating things for themselves or for the community, mods, and bring them back into the fold, bring them into their company, potentially if that's what the modders want, and build great games from that. So right here, it essentially talks more about how Steam has grown, it's the destination, whatever it is. I'll let you go. We're not going to follow every page. You can come back and reread all this stuff later. I'm not going to read every piece. I'm just going to point out the things that were intriguing to me or I thought were important to talk about. Your purchases stay with your Steam account, so even if you buy a new computer, all your games will be fully accessible on the new machine. And that's the point, is if they build the Steam Deck 2, or when, I mean, obviously they're going to be built, we'll get to the end, they're going to build more Steam Decks. This is essentially saying it's going to continue to work. And we know that. It's a PC, so why wouldn't it? And that's one of the things, like I mentioned in the beginning of this, is that I can bring my library always, almost always, when they create new things or when I get a new PC. They talk about how you can log into Windows, Mac OS, and Linux and play your games. You can log out and then go play somewhere else. Once again, marketing trying to really build up, hey, this is amazing ecosystem, and I have to agree with them. I mean, it would be bragging if half the stuff didn't work or wasn't true. It's all true. And so that's the interesting thing. I guess I'm fanboying over this whole thing. And so this next part, they're talking about the controllers and all the different controllers that they support. They support Switch, Xbox Adaptive Control, Racing Wheels. They support so many controllers. Steam client, so on Windows, but also on the Steam Deck. And they even have controller, like, so if some games don't support controllers out the box, but they will have mappings, or people can create mappings to allow controller support to occur. They've done a lot of work to allow for this, and that's kind of what they go throughout this. And also just how the custom controls that you can find that people have made, the most popular ones float to the top. So when you start that game up, it will default to the most popular control schema, and people can then, not have to worry about actually enabling controls or the different mappings. It usually just works. Now, some older games or games that are not as popular, that might not occur as much, but they've done a really good job of automating this stuff. It gives me hope that they'll automate more in the future. So we'll see. They also, this is an interesting one. This is a very interesting one for me. They talk about how they've worked with the game developers over the years to create what Steam is today. How they've made matchmaking, achievements, early access is a way for developers to sell their game while still being developed, and they can gather valuable feedback, build a following, and make sure they have solid game in place by launch day. And they kind of spearheaded this. They honestly, I think that the indie community and indie game development is leaps and bounds ahead of if we didn't have Steam and didn't have some of these programs. They've done a lot. They also hesitated at times, causing some issues too, or in the early days. They've really helped these communities. And honestly, sometimes people don't want to hear this, but money helps build indie games and helps build careers and helps these game developers actually continue to do this and make amazing games. Money kind of drives that. Can't really get away from that. And Valve is all around that. And then we get to see all the different iterations of the Steam Deck, which they had worked on for years. And we'll talk about that in a second. This is really cool. I did a video on this already. I'm not going to really zoom in. You can go zoom in yourself. You get this this booklet. I'll actually have a link to it in the description below, so you can access it from there. But it really is cool. All the different iterations. Like, they went with almost every form factor that you could almost go with. And we ended up with what we have now. And so if we move on to page 25, this is essentially talking about when they first started. This is interesting enough that I'm going to read pretty much the whole thing of it. The idea of a Steam Deck began around 10 years ago when we were working on the Steam controller. Back then, there wasn't any hardware that would let us run AAA PC games within a handheld battery power budget, but we knew that eventually the right hardware would be within reach, so we began to build prototypes. So they started beginning to build prototypes back then, whether or not it was just kind of maybe a little bit slightly off the controller. And in fact, if I remember correctly, with some of the controllers designs, they were kind of edging towards almost having at least they had a little screen on it. And so, yeah, they were definitely thinking about it back then, and they were fully correct. Nothing was powerful enough to play a lot of the Steam games. It would have been able to play like retro games or maybe some other games, but it would have been a true Steam Deck. The cool thing about the Steam Deck is it can play almost all the games on Steam, power-wise, that is. Maybe not compatibility-wise yet, but in theory, if it's compatible, it can almost surely run at about at least 30 frames. There's some exceptions, obviously, to that. The next paragraph, by the time we formed our partnership with AMD to work together on a custom APU combo CPU and GPU, we were ready with a functional design. Many iterations on ergonomics and control placements then happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, requiring the team to ship prototypes to each other for testing. And that obviously probably slowed things down a lot. Throughout the product's development, the core premise has stayed the same, providing a way for customers to take their Steam library with them on the go with a powerful handheld all-in-one gaming PC. And I'm sure, honestly, they were probably geeking out and wanted their games on the go. That sometimes is how this kind of goes. As someone that's like a developer, I like to build stuff and think of dream of stuff, I guess, that I want to use. And I'm sure that's how they work over at Valve. And just a reminder, if you purchased a game on Steam, you don't need to purchase a new version to play on Steam Deck. While the hardware may change and evolve over time, your Steam library can only grow larger. It's kind of a bash at, I would say, maybe PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, just slightly, because they do have some backwards capabilities, and it's not fully their fault at times. Nintendo kind of, I'm not going to go down on a hate train on that, but they really do like the older games on Nintendo. So if we go to this next one, it essentially is talking about they would not have the Steam Deck without their past, maybe some failure. I think failures, they failed. They created some good stuff. I think most of their hardware did decent enough, but didn't do amazing. And so some would say that all these were failures besides maybe the Valve Index. Which I wouldn't consider that a failure. Steam Deck wouldn't have happened without the products, technologies, and features shipped by our teams over the last decade. Each of those steps provided essential components of what became the Steam Deck experience. You got the Steam controller, you got the Steam Link, which both did, they were good products. I would not say they were bombshells. They were not amazing. I mean, they were pretty good though, but I don't think they sold as well as Valve Index. And they don't carry them to this day or try to iterate off them. I know that there's some patent issues with that, but that's besides the point. And then you have the Steam machines, which I think everyone would say was a failure. It just they couldn't hit the price point just right. And so you could get this PC that just wasn't powerful enough to compete against the consoles of its time for price to, performance, that is. It still was decent enough, but also SteamOS wasn't mature enough. There wasn't enough games that worked during that time. And then you get the Valve Index, which honestly, I have one. I love it. I think it was their first hardware for me that was just amazing, that I think, hey, they got something. And that's when they announced the Steam Deck that I was really excited when I heard the Steam Deck. So a lot of failures, a lot of successes, and some are mixed. That's kind of what built the Steam Deck. And I very much agree with them on that. But I don't agree with them with this point right here. Not only that, but it contains the most powerful graphics hardware of any handheld in the world. I will agree, when it was released, it did. It's slowly going to stop being that way. For its size to performance and all that, I think they're going to get beat with some of the Ionio and the LoFi stuff within the next few months, maybe even next year. But the whole package as a whole, I don't know. The ecosystem, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat that right off the bat. And it is a little subjective, but I wouldn't say this statement stands very strong in the near future, even maybe now. But that's just, not a bash or anything like that. I don't think they're really lying. This is where they're getting a little boastful. And that's fine. Then they talk about the Steam Deck is a PC, but it doesn't come with Windows. Instead, it runs SteamOS, a Linux-based operating system developed by Valve. We made a decision in order to optimize the Steam Deck experience in many ways, specifically for gaming. And they go into the sleep wake. They were able to customize things because of that. They're able to control every aspect of it and essentially make a console PC game. They're essentially able to make a console PC gaming handheld and have control over it a little bit and kind of lead the direction of SteamOS. And with that, they have an announcement, they're always saying that, they've been saying this for a while now, But right here, we'll soon be shipping a general installer for SteamOS, enabling any PC to take advantage of all of its features. In addition, we'll soon be making SteamOS available for other manufacturers who wish to make a gaming device on their own. We've known that they're going to be releasing it, that they want to have people to have access to it. And so I do, it definitely shows maybe a little sooner. Maybe we're going to get a little sooner. And then they also, talk about the Proton translation layer allows most Windows games to run with equal or better performance on SteamOS without requiring game developers to do any heavy porting work to get their games running. And it's getting better every month. Proton gets better. And then we also have Proton GE and some other just niceties and wine stuff that will help give us more compatibility. We're soon, like, if they keep this up, they're going to get most games, unless it has DRM or some like weird reason, like Epic Games, they just don't want to support the Steam Deck with Fortnite. We'll see though if they change their minds. I think SteamOS is like, with every compatibility fix with Proton and more and more games becoming compatible, we are going to see something interesting with SteamOS. So they talk about the design right here. The rounded grips make it comfortable to hold for long gaming sessions. The team tested for grip ergonomics and control placement with many different sizes, keeping in mind the lessons we've learned from the Steam controller and Steam and Index controller. Steam Deck's hardware was also designed to be repaired, replaced, or upgraded. The PC community is full of people who love to tinker and upgrade their machines, so we've made it easy to open the back cover with standard tools. And I will have to say, if you haven't seen some of my live streams, I live stream multiple times opening up my deck and swapping out the SSD. It really is easy, and it's easy to swap things out. With the way it's designed, it's definitely repairable, maybe even upgradable. With that, also added a little bit of chunkiness to it, in my opinion, but I think they're also trying to go for a little bit of bigger areas for your hands and to make it comfortable. Parts are clearly marked, and it's possible for experienced customer to replace many of the main components. We've already seen the Steam Deck community successfully replacing the hardware drive, attaching an external GPU, 3D printing stands, cases, and attachments, even attaching a PC-grade heatsink, which Linus tweeted out about that, hey, he got mentioned in the booklet, which is pretty cool. And then all to the back of the device. For fun, we definitely don't recommend this one. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either. We've also collaborated with iFixit to provide replacement parts for Steam Deck, along with detailed guides for replacing SSDs, fans, displays, and more. This is a huge direction, and I think a game setter essentially saying, hey, we are going to allow you to repair your own device. We are going to allow you to potentially extend your device. And here's everything you need to do it. No other company really does this, that I know of, and if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. This is really cool in the sense, like, I should say no major company that does like gaming hardware in this manner. If they sell a PC gaming computer, maybe they'll sell, obviously like the parts are easy to come by, like GPUs and whatnot. The next page, they just talk about how GameCloud Size allow you to start a gaming session and a gaming session for multiple PCs, Steam Decks, whatever it is, comfort of your couch. And they just go over that. And then they talk about the different games on their the device and on Steam and the verified program and the playable and just all that. But it is funny that they throw Cyberpunk in there. It is playable, and it actually isn't too bad on the Steam Deck, in my opinion. I haven't played the end portion or certain parts that might bog it down, but I've played it. It works great. Most of the games on here that I've played work great. So, I mean, it is a pretty good catalog. They showed some pretty good stuff, and I think this will be very, a little bit more to the Asian market too, where a lot of these games actually are, I believe, created by Asian companies, developer companies. Not all of them, obviously, but, you got Horizon Zero Dawn, at the very least is a Sony company, or a Sony developer, and whatnot. Okay, let's move on and not make this a 3-hour video. They go over just essentially what people have extended stuff more with, and just talking about Linux desktop, SteamOS, whatnot, right there. And then they talk about Komodo, who they're partnering with the Asian market, and they've worked with them to do other projects, to do their VR and all that. And then we get to the end. This is the end. I didn't expect this video to go this long, so I'm not going to apologize because it's all good meatiness. But the future, more Steam Decks, more SteamOS. So they're committed. They're essentially what they're saying right here. And obviously, this is not like they've signed it, but they put this in this material. They're more Steam Decks, more SteamOS. They have understood that, hey, this is a huge success. Steam Deck represents the first in a new category of Steam handheld gaming PCs. In the future, Valve will follow up on this product with improvements and iterations to hardware and software, bringing new versions of Steam Deck to market like the original. And like all PCs, these future products will continue to provide access to the same Steam game catalog that gamers already know and love. I wouldn't be surprised if they worked with other companies to get Steam Decks out. And they are technically working with, I believe, the Ioneo and maybe even Ion now, companies to make sure SteamOS works on their devices. They really, that makes them a lot of money. And underlining everything, I think they're excited about this. Their drive isn't all about money. It's about success. It's about just building cool stuff and doing it right. And I think it's really, I think they're going to work with other companies. It's just when they did it in the past with the Steam Machine, it really just did not go well. And I think they wanted to have more control, at least for the first iteration. And I think they will always. It will be kind of like how Google does it. You have the Google Android phone where they're like, hey, look, this is how you kind of build an Android phone. Because they kind of had to go that way towards, at one point to just like really show you, this is it. I think SteamOS is going to, Valve are going to do the same thing with SteamOS. I think they're going to be like, okay, this is how you kind of do it. If you want help or you want us to promote your product, we will. And I think they will. I know that I believe Ioneo has asked that, hey, we want to promote the product. And I believe Steam will or Valve will potentially do it on Steam. Let's go through some more of this because this is the meat of the whole video. SteamOS will continue to evolve, including new features and improvements to game compatibility through Proton. As the time of this writing, hundreds of changes have already been made to Steam Deck's operating system since the device was first shipped that will continue throughout Steam Deck's life, well into the future versions of the product. Also, the work that has gone into Steam Deck's user interface will soon be available through desktop client as a new version of the big picture, the version of Steam that's meant to be used with a game controller and on television screen, and the compatibility work for Steam Deck will be inherited by other platforms like Chrome OS, which will soon provide support for Steam gaming for all Chromebook users, which is really cool. This is news that we've seen in the past. A lot of the stuff we know that they're going to go and kind of replace big picture mode in the Steam client. And so nothing new there, but it just shows that, hey, they're committed. This is going to kind of be their thing. And then anyway, which is kind of a weird way to kind of put that into the booklet. Anyway, this is a multi-generational product line. Valve will support Steam Deck and SteamOS well into the foreseeable future. We will learn from the Steam community about new uses for our hardware that we haven't thought of yet, and we will build new versions to be even more open and capable than the first version of the Steam Deck has been. What would you like to see in the future of Steam Deck? Let us know. Yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think you want to see the future Steam Deck to be, and also email them. Like if there's something that you think that's cool, go to the forums or email them. They want to hear. They've done well hearing people in the past. I will say right now, I've done a video on this, but I really think that they're going to do it. I really think there's a potential of them doing the Steam Deck Pro, a Steam Deck 2, and a Steam Deck VR. Those are my predictions. It really looks like they're getting excited. And when they kind of do this, they kind of go off and splinter and make a lot of different things. Now, whether or not those get released, I can't promise you, but I wouldn't be surprised. And their fulfillment rate's already gone up. Like they're going to have pretty much all reservations taken care of within the first part of Q4. If you have a reservation right now, it's probably already going to be fulfilled before the end of Q3. So they're going to be all caught up. No issues there. They'll be able to, if they want, potentially make the next device. We'll see. It's not going to make the Steam Deck 1 obsolete. It's just not. You're going to still be able to play the games you want. They're still going to support the SteamOS for it. And it's so feature-packed. The best that Steam Deck Pro is going to probably be is it's going to have an OLED screen. It's going to have an extra USB port and it's going to have a newer APU in it. We'll see. The APU is custom designed, but AMD and Steam, or Valve and AMD, have been working on this stuff, and they've been working on a newer chip that's going to probably come out in 2 years, in my opinion. It's going to come out in about 2 years, and I think that might be the Steam Deck Pro, Steam Deck 2. I don't know if you'd see anything sooner, but who knows, maybe. With that chip, it could also be the Steam Deck VR. Who knows? I do know that they're going to create a new one, and they'll probably release it, and I'm excited for it. And it's exciting because the Steam Deck is an amazing device, and this is an amazing future, and this is a very long, essentially podcast at this point, video. But it is exciting to see just that they're committed to it. And when they get committed like this, they'll usually do it. It's usually when things start to like, oh, we're going to do 3 episodes of Half-Life 2 as an example. Well, they didn't. They did 2 episodes, and the cells weren't great. The things, they just didn't have the vision. It didn't feel right. So I understand why they didn't finish with the 3rd one. Half-Life 3 is just this heaven that cannot be reached, and developers don't want to mess up on that. And so I don't think the Steam Deck is like that. I think the Steam Deck, like, honestly, like with that type of game, it takes so, like with a game, it takes so much creativity. They don't want to mess up. With the deck, all they have to do, bare minimum, make it more powerful. If they could just slap another APU in a build like this in 2 years, I think a lot of people will be happy. But we'll see. There is a lot of iterations going on in the mobile market with the Aya Neo Air, with the Loki. They're very much slimmer though. And I will have to say, the Steam Deck, so far compared to those types of devices, is a little bit more comfortable, in my opinion. There should be some competition coming up, and that is good. It's good to have competition for Valve. It's good to have competition for these other companies. They can usually build off of it and build better. And I think Valve wants there to be competition, and they're going to give them some of their tools to help. Because guess what? In the end, if Steam is on every one of those devices, they are making money. And that is that is a big driving force for them, and also success. So with that, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this video. I'm sorry it was a little long, but you know what? I wanted to just really dive into this. I spent a lot of time kind of preparing and reading through this booklet multiple times, and I want you to just go through and read it too. It's a good toilet material, I guess, if you want. You can even read it on the toilet with your Steam Deck if you want. But I want to know what you guys think of this. What do you think the next Steam Deck is going to be? Is it going to be a Pro? Is it like with just a faster APU? Is it going to be a 2 with different controls and all that stuff? Is it going to be a VR, or is it going to be a combination of all 3, or just all 3? I want to know what you guys' thoughts are on this. This is exciting times as always, and I love these types of videos. These are some of my favorites. And then you can check out other stuff in the description below. I have a website that I'm working on, gamesrevealed.com. I'm continually working on it. It's going to come, and I'm going to promote it harder. But check it out and let me know what you guys think on that too. Thank you guys for watching. Check out my other videos, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out. Later!